ammunition?
Well, we were with part of our group where Jack was with it, was on what they call operational post, OP. And this post was in a house on the top of a hill, facing, I guess, not really facing, the Maginot Line. In other words, the Maginot Line, the French had built the Maginot Line as protection, but they didn't maintain it, or they didn't know what to do with it exactly. So ultimately the Germans took over. And it was a big concrete bunker thing that just wove along like the Great Wall of China. And then it turned around, and where we were was just about the point where it was turning around and going back. And we were in a hill, and they were down in a valley across a small river of Rhone, the Rhone River, I think it was. And they were wearing white camouflage uniforms, the Germans, whereas we didn't have it. We were using our regular khaki coats, very bulky kind of things. And the morning of, I guess it was January 25th or something like that.
25th? I thought you said it was 21st.
21st, maybe 21st. I wrote it down somewhere, so we'll have it down. Actually, we were in this house. We had a heavy caliber machine gun firing at the, whenever we wanted to, we could fire at the Maginot Line. But it's like hitting a barn. We couldn't even hit the side of the Maginot Line, let alone hit anybody. Because two things. One, the people the heavy machine gun moves a lot, so we had put it on a table, and as soon as you started firing, it jumped up and you couldn't hit anything. Whereas the Germans, in the Maginot Line, could fire back. Every once in a while they would fire back, and they could fire for 2 or 3 minutes and not hit more than a little square or circle. I think they call that the circle of confusion, like they do with the camera. So after a while, we had a new second lieutenant, because the previous ones had been wounded or killed, and he didn't know what he was doing. And some of the soldiers in the group had been there for a while. In other words, once you're there a week or two, they think you're an old timer. And most of the ones who were killed or shot at were the ones who were recruits, the ones that had been replacing the other people. And he was there in the morning, and he said, "Who took my walnuttos?" Background: they give you a package of food like the Cracker Jack, a box of Cracker Jack, and in it they had walnuttos, the candy things, the walnuttos or the chocolatos, and then they would have other things there. They had 2 or 3 varieties of meat in cans and stuff. They were called K rations or something like that. You had C ration and K ration. They were both different. So he said, "Who took my walnuttos?" I guess it was. And no one was paying attention to him. And he started yelling, "Where's my walnutto? Who has my walnuttos?" So,
This is the captain.
Lieutenant,
The lieutenant?
the second lieutenant, practically knew on the job. Our unit was made up of a lot of replacements, because this was a background. This is the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge, which was sort of a counteraction to Hitler's trying to break through and go right to the coast. I was in the Third Army, but I was with General Middleton, who was one of the generals under General Patton. And Patton called him a genius. He was a bright guy, and our job was to keep the Germans from restocking and supplying through Bastogne, which they used as a central distribution place. So our job was to try to stop them from getting food in and getting food out. And we did a pretty good job, actually. Okay, so he's yelling for chocolatos and walnuttos or something, and he said, get some more ammunition. Who wants to go for ammunition? So, I don't know, they pointed or I volunteered, but we went down. There were two of us. I was there with a fella from New Mexico named Carlos. I don't know his last name. I don't remember now. And our job was to go down to the village, down the hill, and get some bandoliers of ammunition. Because they were shooting it up so fast, nobody knew what the hell they were doing. So we went down, and this was probably about, I'd say 3, 4 in the morning. It was dark. So we go down to the village, and we find another operating place. And we spoke to him for a while, and we talked to what was happening.
Oh, there were people down there?
We had people. We had several different houses that we had taken at the time. This was in a place called Luxembourg, in the hills there, right over, looking over the National Line. And this fellow Carlos said, let's see what they have in the basement. And that's where they would store their goodies, like the old, anything they had, like apples or potatoes or eggs or whatever. They would keep or store them in the basement.
This
And
was
in
a
fact,
farmhouse. It was a farmhouse.
yeah, something like that, but the houses were close together. It wasn't like the old big farmhouses. And they put the dates on the eggs or the dates on things. So we took some of the stuff, put it in our gas mask carriers, which we had thrown around a long time ago to get rid of our gas masks. And we put food in there. And then we went down to our I was going to say headquarters. They didn't call it headquarters. It was a supply place, and picked up the bandoliers of ammunition, which were pretty heavy because you're talking about belts filled with ammunition, you know.
So you had the ammunition plus the food that you were...
Well, the food was nothing. The food was apples or something like that. And we started talking to the people, and then we said we'll go back. We started going back, and then suddenly it became dawn. The dawns just came like that. It's like some of the places, you know, on the islands where it gets that way. Suddenly it's...
I was singing that song, and the dawn came up like thunder out of China across the...
It did. It came up very quickly. And if you remember, we were wearing...
Could you just look up to my
Yeah,
hand?
we were wearing
Ah,
the regular OD uniforms with the OD coats, the long coats. And now with the ammunition, it became quite a job to maneuver up the hill, because we were going up the hill now with the ammunition. And up the hill on the left side was like a hedgerow, and the right side was sort of open, tapering down, going down to the valley, which was where the river was across from the national line. Well, we get about halfway up again, and they start firing at us. Apparently 1 or 2 snipers was firing at us. And they had originally hit this Carlos, and apparently they had, I don't know whether they had shot his helmet off or whether he fell. When he fell, the helmet came off. And he yelled at me, he said, "I'm hit." I didn't even know where he was hit. So I crawled over and gave him my wound tablets. At that time, it was before, just about the time that penicillin was given to the Army. And I had these sulfur pills, essentially. And I gave him my package, a little package we had of sulfur pills. And he took it with water, and that was fine. Then he started crawling away. I said, "Stay there for a while." He said, he started crawling away, and when they saw him crawling away, they shot again. And this time they killed him, and they wounded me, and I thought the bullet had come in the bottom of my soul because it snapped. The nerve snapped when they were wounded. And I started bleeding, but it was so cold that the blood froze. And I didn't have anything but frostbite when they picked me up. I had frostbite. But the actual wound was pretty good because, though not too much, I didn't lose too much blood during the day.
How many hours were you in the snow?
Well, this was morning, probably 7 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get picked up until when it was dark, probably sometime around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, maybe later. And
I
but
was
during the
figuring how many
day,
hours.
well, I had contact two or three times because a couple of people had gone up to the hedge row and talked to me over the thing. They said that I want them to rescue me or try to rescue me. I said, you better not, because the Germans were very good using their 88, which were a very accurate gun, very good gun. And they'd fire at anything. They wouldn't wait. So I said, better wait till it gets dark. They said, okay. We'll be here, pick you up when it's dark. I said, okay. Then they came back later, I think Jack or somebody asked if I needed anything. And I said, I could use a jacket for my foot. It was cold, it was getting cold. So they threw a jacket over to me. But other than that activity, and my feeling every once in a while that I'd shoot a whole bunch of people there, you know, you'd see them outside walking like it was on a picnic. I didn't do much because,
But how many hours? I figured like 14 hours in the
well, something
snow.
like that. It was a
Yeah.
whole day. And fortunately, it wasn't that cold, otherwise I would have really frozen. But I could move pretty well. I could move my rifle pretty well. I could, every once in a while I thought I'd shoot at somebody I saw, but the possibility of my hitting the guy was very, very low. And then finally I figured that we were both shot on the same place, so I crawled away from there. But I didn't do much movement. Then at night, when it was dark, I hear these voices coming, and I see the white, looked to me like white uniforms. So I had my rifle, I had the other fellows